This is an updated version of my simple ice cream base. This is the base I use most of the time, and it uses xanthan gum as a stabilizer. To begin, heat 1 3/4 cups of milk and 1 3/4 cups heavy cream in a medium saucepan. Sugar plays a crucial role in keeping ice cream soft and smooth rather than freezing into a hard block of ice. I use two kinds of sugars, sucrose, otherwise known as granulated sugar, and either corn syrup or glucose syrup. Often I will be adding a flavoring ingredient that already contains sugar, like cookies or chocolate or just straight up hard candy. Ideally, you want to have about 3/4 of a cup or 150 grams of sucrose in total. You can do some simple math by figuring out how much sugar is in the flavoring ingredient and subtracting that from the amount you add to the base. 61 grams per container, 150 grams minus 61 grams, so we'll cut this to about 90 grams. While having a scale is helpful, oftentimes I'll just estimate and use either 1/4 cup, 1/3 of a cup, or 1/2 cup of sugar. Not enough sugar and you'll run into some issues with texture and hardness, but too much sugar isn't really a problem. I use 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum, and I find it's easier to incorporate it into warmer liquids. Xanthan gum is a little bit hydrophobic like cocoa powder, so I find it's easier to disperse it by mixing it in with the sugar. And a whisk is very helpful for breaking up any clumps that form on the surface. Add the sugar and 2 tablespoons of corn or glucose syrup and stir until everything has dissolved. I always add the flavor ingredient when the liquid is still hot, as it tends to be easier to incorporate, especially if it's something that needs melting like chocolate or marshmallow. And you can obviously add the flavor into the saucepan itself rather than the bowl, but because the saucepan I use has a coating on it, I don't want to damage it with the whisk. After the ingredient is incorporated, strain out any unwanted solids and pop it into the refrigerator to chill for a few hours. All right, well, it's been a couple hours and it's time to churn the ice cream, but before I do that, I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla extract because Peeps don't really have a flavor. You wanna make sure your mixture is as cold as possible before you churn it, otherwise it may not fully set. After churning, you can enjoy the ice cream right away in a softer consistency, or transfer it into a container to harden up in the freezer overnight. Every time I try a new flavor, I like to consider the variables that might affect the process. Each one is different and may require a little tweaking, but for the most part, it's a very simple process with many of the same steps. I recommend experimenting with other stabilizers and look up other recipes and compare and contrast to find out what works best for you. That's all for now, and I hope you're having a